Hello, my name is Ron Chichester, and we're going to discuss using AI models on your own machine offline to prevent disciplinary rule 1.05 problems. This is made specifically for Texas attorneys, although it's probably applicable to most any attorney in the world for that matter, that is using artificial intelligence or might be using artificial intelligence in the future, and what to disclose to your client, and also how to keep your clients safe, particularly their client confidences, and keep your law license safe. This is not a course on how to actually use it. This is not about prompt engineering. This is not about copyright issues regarding AI. That's all for other discussions. This is strictly about disciplinary rule 1.05, how to maintain client confidences and do it in a way that ultimately can save you money and also can become part of your workflow within your own IT systems. So the first thing we have to do is talk about what artificial intelligence is. And it's that field of computer science that's dedicated to creating machines that can simulate human cognitive functions such as learning, reasoning, problem solving, and perception. And probably one of the most important ones, which is not listed here, which is decision making, because we're all about helping clients make informed decisions. We're always, of course, have to make decisions ourselves, and we are increasingly using AI to make certain decisions. Mundane ones that are kind of in the background, but decisions nonetheless. So we have to discuss how cloud-based AI works, basically, so that we can distinguish cloud-based AI from local-based AI, and that distinction is critical to determining and basically avoiding disciplinary rule 1.05 problems. So with the proprietary workflows such as ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, the other ones, they all work on the cloud. Basically, you have a prompt and you send your prompt through a web browser or a desktop application to the cloud, to a server running somewhere else, and so the prompt is transmitted to cloud servers, and they process your request, and so the results are sent back to you. Now, there's a hidden cost here, right? Your prompts and responses are used to train and update AI models themselves. Now, there are supposedly some AI companies out there that say, like for enterprise versions, they won't use your prompts and such to teach their AI, but particularly for the free ones, they absolutely do. And for other ones and such, they may, depending on what they do or how much money you have to pay them to keep your client confidences from being disclosed or used in other ways other than just getting your answer, right? So there are four critical issues for attorneys using proprietary AI. That the information disclosure, right, is the big one. Anything your prompt is automatically disclosed to the hosting company. Now, as I said, whether they do something with it or not is up to them. They may have, if you pay them enough money, they may not do that. If you don't pay them enough money, they may do that, all right? So that's a problem. And that can lead to DR 1.05 problems, all right? That your client confidences, that the disclosure of the client confidences to those third parties may violate your ethics rules, and also may involve violation of your engagement agreement with your clients about keeping information confidential. Another aspect, which is not DR 105 related, but is service throttling, if you're using a free version, and I've used free versions of them regularly for non-client issues for other things, they have lengths, they throttle your prompt length, and also that because your prompt length is throttled, your result that you get may not get something. And that's kind of the whole idea, right? They get enough to tease you, get you interested, and then start to get you to pay a fee, right? So then there are subscription costs. And that's just another thing that we all don't like to pay as attorneys, and there we are. Now, we got to go over DR 1.05. This is the important point, right? Except as permitted, a lawyer shall not knowingly reveal client confidential information of a client or a former client to a person that the client has instructed is not to receive the information, or anyone else other than the client's representatives or members, associates, or employees of the lawyer's law firm. And that is the part that would include proprietary companies for proprietary AI, right? And you can get it right there, page 22, the latest version of the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct. Now, fortunately, there is a solution, right? And the solution is using local AI models. You run the AI on your own machine. There are hundreds of open source models available. There are licensed closed source models that are also available that you can run on your desktop and your own personal machine, and no data goes to the cloud. So there's absolutely no DR 1.05 issues, right? So as I said, no data leaves your computer. There's total, complete control of privacy, no subscription fees, and your prompt size is limited only by the hardware on your machine, right? So there are two popular options to this. One is Ollama, which is an open source, no restriction, free for all uses, including commercial, meaning lawyers can use it for their practices. That's a great thing. Another very popular one is LM Studio, which is proprietary. It's free for personal use only. And the reason it's for personal use only is why I don't use it, because obviously I want to do it for my own law firm, right? They all work on Windows, Mac, and Linux, not a problem. But we're going to focus on Ollama here because it's open source and practice ready. And also, the cool thing about Ollama is that it can be used as a substitute for ChatGPT and third-party applications like Open Web UI, which is very, very popular, very useful. It can also be used as a substitute for Copilot in Microsoft Word, right? So there is the aspect to Open Web UI. And if you look, it says it supports various runners like Ollama and OpenAI compatible APIs. And that the thing to look for is that OpenAI compatible APIs. And that is the stuff, meaning that because Ollama uses the same API structure as ChatGPT, as OpenAI does, then you can basically, it's like almost like from an API standpoint, a drop-in replacement. That's a lot of geeky stuff, meaning that the two can be virtually, at least to a large extent, interchangeable. Now, obviously, if you have the ChatGPT app, it's only going to work with ChatGPT, but there are some other third-party app interfaces that will work both with Llama and ChatGPT, and for that matter, maybe Grok or Claude or some of the other ones out there, right? There's a great article out there. Note the URL up above about using GPT for Word, but you can use Ollama 100% local, 100% private, right? And also, no limit on the prompt size. So if you're using the free version of ChatGPT, you should give this thing a whirl because you're not going to be throttled so much on the prompt or the number of times you use it. You can use it to your heart's content, and just keep going, right? So there's a lot of benefits to local large language models, LLMs, right? There's privacy and ethics issues, enhanced data privacy for sensitive information, no cloud dependence, meaning you can work on this thing offline on your own machine. If your internet goes out, especially after a hurricane like in Houston, and you're out of internet for a while, you can keep working with AI, no less, right? So you're DR 105 compliant, at least unofficially, but certainly practically. And then from a business standpoint, there are some good things for your business. There's some reduced costs. There's no subscription fees. There's off-site functionality, like I said, in case you're in a hurricane or you have to take your laptop, which you can put an LLM on your laptop. Actually, I have several on this very laptop I'm using to create this this webinar, right? Oftentimes you get faster response times because there's no latency on the network and such. And of course, you can make certain assurances to your client in your engagement agreement that when you use LLM models, none of their data is being uploaded to a third-party server. So it's a wonderful warm fuzzy for a lot of clients. And look, the clients are expecting you to understand this stuff. They don't necessarily understand it, and you have to look out for their best interests. So it's on you, really, ultimately. Now, having said that, there's a lot to understand about large language models, right? They come in different sizes. On Ollama, there's over 100. If you go on their website and stuff, there's lots and lots of models to look for and look at. Some are good for reasoning. Some are good for, just classification, summarization. They all have better in some uses, but they all come in a variety of sizes. The sizes are measured in parameters. usually in terms of 1 billion parameters. So 2 billion, 7 billion, 13 billion, 70 billion. The larger models are more capable, but they're slower because they're just bigger. The smaller models can excel at specific tasks. Um, you should, and this is kind of an analogy I use. When you think about the parameter lists and stuff, think about weight classes in boxing and such. So the models with the same class, same size, offer comparable performance typically. There'll be fine tuning. There'll be slight differences and such. You can look on the internet and get comparisons of the different models and such. They are actually making models. There's a place called HuggingFace.com that goes through and has models. Some of the models have been trained specifically on court cases and court opinions. The people that are doing that more than anyone else are probably the Chinese and also the English, the UK. It's not been quite so popular. I think part of it is the data size, the immensity of the data parameters in the United States. And part of it is just how U.S. law is. But there's models out there for everything. I mean, and believe it or not, through Ollama, you can actually make your own. So if you want to roll your own that are good for specific tasks like copyrights or whatever, you can do that. And you can plug it into Ollama and you can run it. It's a really, really wonderful thing. So hardware, right? The software is free, but the hardware is not. Now, the good news is you might already have what you need, right? The ideal hardware is like Apple Silicon, the M1, M2, M3, M4, and now M5. I didn't get that. M5 just got released here recently. Those Apple Silicon are expensive. What a lot of people do instead is they get a Windows machine that is set up for gaming. Now, the cool thing about gaming is that they have dedicated graphics processing unit, GPUs. And those GPUs are used for making video games and things like that. But one of the nice things about it is they are also equally useful for AI. And so you can get a laptop that has an APU, it can be a GPU on it, and actually run a lot of AI applications with it, right? So desktop PCs with modern, typically NVIDIA graphics card, although that's changing. The other card manufacturers are getting on this bandwagon and getting Ollama to be able to work with the graphics cards. I mentioned the NVIDIA graphics cards because they're known to work and work well. But there are other ones out there you can work with and such. They might be slower. They might be faster, but I just know that the NVIDIA ones work because that's what I use on mine, except on my Mac, which I have an M chip. Typically, the more RAM, the better, especially the graphics RAM. So it's called VRAM, video RAM. And so you'll see video cards that have their own sets of RAM. It's an unfortunate thing in that business where they go through and the cards have their own separate RAM. In some ways, it makes things faster. The downside is you can't just use regular RAM with it. And so it's kind of specialized, but that's kind of the situation is. Now, what this means though, if you're going to use a lot of AI on your laptop, now the GPU actually becomes more important than the CPU, so the graphics processing unit becomes more important than the central processing unit. And the CPU, you may remember, is things like the Intel i5, i7, the AMD6, other hardware chips like that. But the graphics processing GPUs and stuff are like the NVIDIA cards and some of the other cards out there that do what's called vector processing. So you may not know. For that matter, what you can do and should do is just try it out. Seriously, the software is free. If you've already got the hardware and stuff, just try it. Okay, it's really not that hard. Okay, if you can install a program, you can install Ollama. And the Ollama will go through and help you pull down the models and let you help pick them. I mean, so start out with the small models, see whether or not you get acceptable performance, and start working your way up. You'll probably want to use the largest model that doesn't take a whole heck of a lot of time. But if you happen to, have some patience and stuff, or, work with another machine or whatever, you might just try to go through and take a larger model. They actually do give better performance and such. But if you've got a small laptop and this is the only thing that small one's the only thing that works, great. Especially go through and look for the smaller models that do something um, about your particular topic or what you're specifically looking for, like reasoning or something like that, right? So, other than ideal hardware, if you don't have the ideal hardware, like I said, try it out anyway. Start with the smaller models. Many models work with standard hardware. If Ollama's not really picky, all right? So if you download Ollama and start to run it, it'll tell you if it doesn't find a GPU and that it has to use the CPU only. If you have to use the CPU only, I hope you have a lot of time on your hands. It's going to take a long, long time for a CPU to do it. The GPUs really, really try to go through and use a lot. Now, having said that and stuff, there's a big push in the industry to go through and fit the large language models into things like cell phones and Raspberry Pis and stuff and get it on smaller and older machines, right? So even old machines can run smaller models. This small model thing has become a big deal. So chances are actually pretty good that even a modest power PC and stuff might actually be able to help you. Certainly the higher end laptops, the gaming PCs, the Apple Silicon chips and stuff, they will all be able to run this thing, right? Smaller and even larger models than that. So the key component is GPU versus CPU. Like I said, the GPUs are specialized chips. They can do the vector processing really, really, really well, way better than a CPU can, right? And so it's central to the graphics and to large language models. Now, you may remember CPUs. I'm just trying to jog your memory here. That's the thing you hear about most, that you ignore the most, the i5, i7, how fast they are, things like that. They're great for spreadsheets and word processors, but they're not good for word processing. Most lawyers never need a GPU, or at least never needed to know what a GPU was, all right? Um, so the solution to a lot of this stuff is just buy a GPU and avoid the math and avoid a lot of the headaches, right? Uh, and then you can of course consider extending the life of your older PCs and stuff with Linux. If you don't like Windows 11, there's Linux available. If you have a older Mac with some GPU hardware on it or whatever, stuff with like an Intel chip or whatever, that Apple has end of lifed, if you will. I think they actually call it end of life. You can extend the life of a laptop, Apple laptop or PC, with Linux. I've done that with some of my machines, and you keep. I've had machines go 15, laptops I've had go for 15 years with Linux, so it's really helpful. To get started with Ollama, there's the download the Ollama. All right, there's a URL right there. It'll actually help you pick which one operating system you have. It'll look something like that. Now, note, by the way, just recently, Ollama started offering open models on the cloud. I don't do that. I don't think you should do that. I think it's kind of going a step in the wrong direction. Fortunately, they absolutely still very much allow you to download the models onto your machine, but they do offer the cloud ones in case you're on a machine that doesn't have much power. I still think you're going to have the DR105 issues with them on the cloud. If you want to just avoid the DR105 issues completely, just download the model and use it there. So getting started, you go ahead and install it. You can use the standard installation process for your PC. It's like a .exe file for for Windows, and a .dmg file for Mac, and then the Linux guys just run a curl application. You choose your interface, the command lines for technical users. Ollama now just recently, like within the last couple of weeks, added a user interface automatically with Ollama. It works pretty much the same way as the ChatGPT interface does. It provides you a link. I've got a photo in it here shortly. There are third-party web-based GUIs that are certainly going to be easier for most people and such. But so if you don't like the Ollama one, there are other ones out there. So that's one of the nice things about Ollama. Ollama is you're not limited to the Ollama interface. So you just select some models, start experimenting. It's all about choice, right? So this is actually a picture of what the Ollama the interface looks like, kind of a standard thing. In this case, I uploaded a PDF file. It was on entities, and I'm looking for, I ask a question like, you would, the standard prompt, and this is a short prompt, obviously, because I know what the answer is. Because, but see, you can go through and pick the you can load up multiple files to analyze. You can add information like where in the document or where in which document did you get this information, or you draw your conclusion. Have a very long prompt. You're not limited just on your hardware. Obviously, longer prompts will take longer to work. That's fine, but still, it's all, if you do it all online, do it all locally, you will not have DR105 problems. There are some resources out there. There's a quick start guide for Llama. There's also the interface and such. And this is, by the way, is a long, long, long list of different things that work with Ollama. There's like literally well over 100 things, not only user interfaces and such, but specific applications for RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, meaning that you tell the prompt, you tell the LLM, use only these documents to draw your conclusions, and oftentimes you have an extra part of your prompt. Please tell me what parts of which document you use to draw that conclusion. Select your models. There's all sorts of models out there. There's over 100 on the Ollama website. There you can go through and do a search for which ones, hundreds different sizes, all manner of things. So there are some, let's wrap this up. The problem, of course, is cloud-based AI poses confidentiality risks. Now, the risk can vary depending on what kind of arrangement you have with the third party, but the free versions and such almost always have issues with DR105. The solution, of course, is run something locally that where the client data never leaves your machine, and that's the way to go, I think, if you're going to avoid the DR105 problems completely. So the action, of course, is evaluate your current AI use. If you haven't already, one of the things you need to do is have a heart-to-heart with your client about what kind of AI you're going to use. Your clients may or may not be proactive about it. Now, look, I do technology law, right? And so some of my clients are very upfront about this. They are they know all of this stuff. And I have had clients come through and say, you're not going to do that. And I say, yes, sir. And that's it. And I'll tell them about this, and half the time they're doing the same thing. They're using Ollama or something like it, and they're running their models locally anyway, for the very same reason that we are. They do not want to allow their trade secrets to go outside the company. And they'll give them to me because I'm the IP attorney, but a lot of times they won't do that with their own systems, and they don't want me doing it with their information. So I'm very upfront about it. I use the local alternatives, and other clients, by the way, I do want to emphasize and stuff. For the clients that aren't as sophisticated as some of my clients are, you, the attorney, really have to go through and handle it for them. They're not going to understand, and it is on you as the attorney to go in and be proactive and do the right thing, right? Don't make shortcuts. You don't have to make shortcuts now. This stuff is free, all right? I mean, the software is free. The hardware's not, but the software is. Your hardware may already be able to run this stuff. So you really aren't going to have much of an excuse if you said, oh, Your Honor, I didn't even inform my client I was using ChatGPT, and yeah, my client called me up with all these stories about what are you doing, and have you heard about this ChatGPT stuff or whatever, and they're going to be looking for you to have already known and done the right thing for them on their behalf, right? So you really have to be proactive about it, all right? So my advice is start using Ollama, start experimenting, right? Just take some time. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. Most of the time actually is downloading the models. The models are going to be measured in uh, you know um, gigabits, right? They're going to be 6, 20, 30, 40, 50, 80 gigabyte files. They're huge. But if you have a good internet connection or whatever, that's not going to take a lot of time. And once you download it, all you have to do is update it, which is actually pretty easy. Um, the other thing, though, is you can start with the smaller models, and I would do that. Start with the 2 billion parameter models, the 2B models. For a lot of things, they'll be perfectly fine, especially if you're just using it as an interface to for what's called a RAG application, the retrieval augmented generation, the ones that take your specific documents and refer only to those specific documents in the analysis. And you cut out a huge portion of the size of the LLM because you're not expecting the LLM to know everything. You're just expecting the LLM to be the English interface with the search, right? So um, just remember your client confidentiality comes first and always, all right? And that you, the attorney, are the one that's on the hook for maintaining the client confidence, even if your clients don't understand any of this stuff. In fact, especially when your clients don't understand this stuff, you must, right? And one final thing I will say, having worked with these AI LLM models, you get what you ask for, which isn't necessarily what you want, right? So prompt engineering is a whole different ballgame. But you still, yeah, they can save a lot of time and stuff, but they still absolutely need a human in the loop, and the human has to go through and pick out stuff. So, I use AI. It's a great start, especially when you're trying to get off top dead center, when you're trying to get moving on a document and whatever. But it always takes a lot of review, and it's a help, it's an aid, it's a tool, but it's one that can get you in trouble, right? Not only spilling client confidences up onto the internet and onto some third party that is not privy to your engagement agreement, right? It can also, lead you astray if you don't use it correctly. So the computer and technology section, I think, hopes to have some series of these types of webinars for various topics on AI, how to issue a prompt, um, how to do a RAG application. What is a RAG application? Why is it better? Why is it better than using an LLM to do something, right? And how to cut down errors and how to cut out hallucination, right? So for this CLE program, if you want to get the CLE number, go to sbot.org. That's the State Bar of Texas.org. It's not the State Bar. There's a story behind that, actually. But it's the URL of the computer technology section. Originally got for the State Bar, but it was so ahead of its time that the State Bar didn't think they would ever need to have a domain name. So they didn't take it. And so it was given to the computer and technology section. And the Texas Bar actually finally had to get texasbar.com and that domain. But anyway, for this particular webinar, just log into sbot.org. If you are a member of the section, you can log in. If you're not a member of the section, become one. But if you're from another state, sorry, no CLE here. Hope you enjoyed it. But just log in and get the Texas CLE number for this. And if you have any questions, please contact the Computer and Technology section of the State Bar of Texas. And somewhere on that rather substantial council, a highly technical and very talented council should be able to help. All right. So thank you very much for watching, and good luck.